American election. Ooh, that's an
Okay.
even better. That's an even better starting. That's a better intro. I like that better.
Okay, now we're recording apparently. So, do you want to discuss something before we start? Like,
I
or
don't
we
know.
can
I
just
don't see
go
any
straight
point. I mean,
into
why wouldn't we want to share that with everybody?
it? Okay, what will be our intro? Do you want
Are you drunk?
to? No, I'm not drunk.
What kind of a Russian are you? You're not really a Russian though, so not really.
Only half, maybe you can say that.
Yeah, yeah. So, welcome to the podcast. It's Thursday, October 29th, 2020. We're just a few days out from the American election, and we're here to talk about this, that, and the other thing. Go
Okay,
ahead.
let's start with discussing Borat 2 by Sacha Baron
Okay.
Cohen, curiously Amazon Studios.
All right, but
And
I have a question for you. This is a
okay,
really good topic. I love this topic. What is the name of that fantastic swimsuit he wore?
I don't know.
Because I'm trying to order
The
one. I know you want to see me in it.
Borat swimsuit.
Yeah, this thing.
I'm sure you can order that on AliExpress or something. Yeah, yeah.
Mankini. Yes.
Mankini,
I think a lot of people, because I won't look exactly like, what's his name? Sasha Baron Cohen, right? I won't look exactly like, well, I'll be this hairy. I would be this hairy, but
yeah.
let's
Okay,
just say I'd be a little bit lumpier than this in
okay.
this mankini. So let's have a vote right now. And let's just say that a tie vote means that I win, right? So I vote that I do wear this for our next podcast. And what's your vote?
I'm voting that too. But we
Okay,
can.
good, 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 good. Yes, I think that this is giving us a good idea of why this particular picture we're looking at. For those in the podcast land, you're very happy you can't see it. Okay, so
uh,
Borat 2.
yeah, do you know that there are actually like a female version of that mankini, but
Yeah,
it,
well,
it has
that's
it
nice.
has all the hair and Borat Cohen body in it.
Wow.
So it's a closed bikini, but it's
What,
just a print.
what, yeah, but in the modern world, gender, is separated from your physiological features. So Borat could identify as a woman. What are you saying? I mean, why do you have to go there? Why do you have to be
Yeah,
like that?
I'm not making any assumptions, just
Right off from the
for
front,
record. Yeah.
right at the beginning, it's you're like turning off what would probably be 2/3 of our audience.
Okay.
So
We can have like a listener goal for you to put up a picture of yourself wearing that bikini.
no, oh man, I don't think anyone's ready for it. Okay, so you want to talk about the movie? Did you want to talk about Borat 2, the movie? I haven't pirated it. I can pirate it for next time.
Yeah, I think we
Um,
should buy it for next time and do a proper review of the
okay.
entire film, like in a week or two.
So
But
what I'm always trying to tell people about the first one, and it's very easy to find this particular scene. Remember the scene when he gets into a fight with his manager,
yeah, I think I do.
and he somehow ends up with his head in the manager's ass naked somehow.
Yeah,
Remember this?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
what
That's
the
something.
what me and a mankini would be like. It would be a bit similar to that.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. So there's some interesting things. First of all, I think this the is it Sasha Baron Cohen? Is that right?
Yeah,
I think he's a really talented guy. I remember watching his weird movie, Ali G movie. Really,
yeah,
remember?
I've seen that
I thought it
too.
was great. Right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought it was very cool. The stupid car and the east side and the west side, and it's just
yeah,
this guy's really clever. He's really turned on.
yeah, and even in Kazakhstan, in Russia. Um, okay, let's not talk
Yeah,
about Russia. Even in Kazakhstan, people appreciate his movie where he plays the dictator of some African country.
I haven't
Yeah,
seen that one either. So
yeah,
yeah, and I think it's called The Dictator or something. What is it
yeah,
called?
yeah.
Yeah, I want so maybe that's worth seeing too.
Yeah, and he
But
plays.
I have a feeling you want to talk about Rudy Giuliani. Is that right?
No, I
Or no,
want to
not
discuss
particularly.
Borat a little bit.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Sacha
good.
Baron Cohen. I think
Okay.
it will be curious for people to hear, like, from someone who actually lived in Kazakhstan, what it's like to watch Borat, and that's like the first people bring up in a conversation when they learn like you're from Kazakhstan. So do you know Borat? That's like one of the first questions you get asked. And actually, people, when Borat came out, like, people were obviously in Kazakhstan highly critical of the film. But I'm like in the minority who defended the film, I should say. And the only people who really defend it is just young people who either are Sacha Baron Cohen fans or who just think it's funny. But most of the people in Kazakhstan just don't care about the film, and it's still the case. There are some people who are very like who are like patriots, at least what they claim they are, and they oppose it, like they condemn it, all these kind of things. But most of the people just don't care, or they think it's funny. And I don't.
Is his portrayal in any way accurate?
No, no, it's actually
No, it's ridiculous, right?
it's ridiculous. Yeah,
Accent is completely wrong. Nuances are completely wrong. References are completely wrong. Right?
uh,
This is more about an idiot on the West making fun of something which is representative. It's in no way based on reality.
yeah. But the film had a major impact on Kazakhstan. Like, I don't know if you know that on several competitions, and I'm talking like sport competition, um, like similar to size to the Olympic Games, maybe sometimes they played the anthem that Borat performed in the film instead of the real anthem of Kazakhstan. So,
Yeah, that's. But isn't that more of a reflection on us in the West than it is on people in Kazakhstan?
yeah, could be,
But I'm
but
sure it's impossible to not take it personally, right? I can sympathize with the people of Kazakhstan that you're being misrepresented, and these days that's nothing. But back then, when the first movie came out, this is still something that people felt was unjust to be
yeah,
misrepresented and have to live with that misrepresentation.
yeah, but
Um,
still, it's better that people think that.
hey, you two! Sorry about that.
Okay,
Cat fight right outside. I mean, right next to my feet. Made me
okay,
almost jump through the roof. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
that's outside of you. Okay, um, well,
Are you
probably,
familiar with Steve Martin and Saturday Night Live, Two Wild and Crazy Guys?
yeah, I know about it, but I think I never watched that. They do the
But
like the
that's also
comedic
kind
sketches,
of the
right?
same kind of a thing, but that goes back to the 70s. So it's even more ridiculous and less, it's not trying at all to be in any way realistic.
Hmm.
So I would suggest that you look it up and have a look to see something that could be like the yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So these are two swinging guys. I don't remember where
Oh
this boat
yeah, I actually know this scene. I think.
right. You know this gimmick,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
skit, right? These two
yeah.
guys, right?
So what I want to get to is that probably being a country of Borat is better than being a country of terrorists or something, because like if you live in the West and you hear a country that ends with Stan, it's probably like uh, a place where terrorists live or something.
All right.
And
So is there any aspect of this which is true? Anything about the movie that was true? Anything about that stereotype based on that kind of thing in the movie? Is there any truth in it? Can we just dismiss the truth part and then call the rest nonsense? The
I'll
name of the
have
place is Kazakhstan, okay? The national anthem was wrong. You don't have guys like this that are like super misogynist
no, we do
uh
we do have.
You do have a lot of guys like that. I mean, we have guys like that in America too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are guys like that everywhere. We probably have more than normal,
Right.
but it's nothing like as crazy as there. And at times, uh, like it's very rare. Like maybe once in a month, you can hear the story where, like, a woman was kidnapped for marriage. So it does happen at times. Uh,
Yeah, but
like, do you remember the scene with Pamela Anderson?
this whole Russian bride thing is a big thing, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't really happen like in
So
a
so
movie. Like,
no, I think it's I don't think it ever leads to anything happening that's nice, but it's a big deal, the concept of Russian brides, right? I know it's disturbing to see my face on one of the Russian brides here, but yeah, this is and again, this is for the West. This is not for the East. This is for the West. This idea that see this feeds in. I'm not sure how much of this is a reflection. There must be some truth to the concept, the Borat style concept, the too wild and crazy guy concept. There must
yeah,
be like a smattering of truth, maybe more so in the 60s and 70s than today. But
yeah.
I think it's more of a reflection on the West that we crave that. Like, oh,
Mm,
we want women who keep their damn mouth shut and their legs spread, and I want her to be a model at night, and I want her to be a mother in the morning, and I want her to be a maid and a cook during the day.
mm,
So, so is that so? Does that describe a Kazakhstani woman?
some of them, yeah,
Well, you lived with me in Singapore,
yeah.
where the women are thought to have lost the
Wait,
traditional 1950s motherly skills, right,
mm,
of cooking and cleaning and all that. Do you feel that if you had to guess, do you feel like American women, you've seen a lot of American women on the web, do you get the feeling like they are not interested much in that kind of traditional 1950s woman's role?
yeah. I'm sure women from the cities surely aren't
Yeah,
interested in that.
yeah, I agree. You'll meet some conservative women that you feel are more in tune with that type of value system, but they're still more modern. They still, I think most women would like to pursue a career of their own. So when we think of when we, so I'm being the American here. When we think of Eastern women, we think of babushka,
Mm,
right? And a nice little Russian, and for some reason she's small and bent over because she spends too many years in the horrible winter, bent over,
or
pulling
in
things
Gulag.
out of the garden, somehow pulling potatoes out of a frozen ground somehow, and boiling that in soup for a whole week, and they're basically drinking the water of one potato with dirt in it in the soup for. So that's our
Yeah,
ideal, right? That's our ideal of it. Um, was that ever true? And I would guess that's not representative representative of the modern Eastern, let's say, former Soviet republic at all. Women
it
aren't like that.
it was at the time, but of course now it's completely different.
It's a different generation, and it's a much more. Let's just use the word modern, which is probably not the right word, but less
Yeah.
traditional, more modern.
Yeah. But the contrast is huge. Like if you look at the like a cities that a million plus population, and at smaller cities and at villages, the contrast is just enormous. People
Of
are very different.
I think that would be true in a lot of places. So yes, let's remember that. We'll still find babushkas in the outback,
Okay.
but not in the cities. The cities
Yeah,
are going to be much more modern. So let
and
me ask you this. That brings up, yeah,
I think it's true for US too. I mean, people in New York and Los Angeles are probably way different from the rest of the.
it would appear so. It would appear so. And we're going to go with that stereotype for the moment, not question it for the moment.
Mhm.
So, would you say that you agree with me that the stereotype of the American city versus the country is the cities will tend to be more progressive and what the Americans would call left leaning, and the rural areas more traditional and more leaning. Do you feel that's true in the Eastern former
Yeah,
Soviet bloc?
I think it's true universally. I mean, there's something, even if we look at the voting patterns, I mean, there's something universal about that, about the fact that people in the cities are more, let's say, left leaning than usual, than most of the population.
Okay. Why?
Yeah, that's a big question. You want to
It
discuss
is
some
a
of
big
this on
question.
this podcast?
Well,
Um,
I'm open to discussing that at any time and for any period of time. We can dip our toe into it and pull back and think about it, and this is a living conversation, right? And we don't have the answers.
yeah,
Sometimes using each other as a sounding board helps us reach some kind of a epiphany, and let's assume that 90% of all of our epiphanies will be false.
yeah. Well, I think it's a huge topic for discussion. Well, out of the bat, I can think of other things that different in the cities. I mean, the crime is usually higher in the cities. People divorce more often. The families are smaller. Uh,
But do you
well,
think
people
that
live
the
in more tight spaces. That's like it's universal, I think.
All right, let me propose this idea to you, and you can comment on it. I posit the following theorem. The reason why that this tends to be true, more crime and erosion of family values, is because there's a movement afoot that's focused mainly on our metropolitan areas to intentionally erode all things that give us strength to stand up for ourselves. So making our education worse, taking away all joy in music. Think about the music from the 80s and how, some was good and some was bad, but it was a lot more joyous than the music of today.
Yeah,
Uh, the erosion of the family and the worship of the single mother. And, if you look at statistics, and I haven't, so I'm quoting a quotation of statistics, a very dangerous thing to do,
yeah,
seems to suggest that if you are in school with two parents at the age of 20, your likelihood of ever ending up in poverty is damn near zero in the United States.
yes,
But if
it's
you
true.
reach the age of 20, not at home, without two parents, you're a user of alcohol and or drugs, and your likelihood of ending up in poverty becomes quite significant.
Yeah,
And I just wonder, is this a manipulation? Is this, let's not attribute it to anybody, right or left, a movement on either side or anything. Let's not say it's the big bad billionaires, but let's just say, do you think that this is the nature of uh, how big cities work, and how we end up where we are? Or do you think that there's a master plan or something in the middle?
I think it's just a natural impact of living in a big city on human psyche, because it gives you this kind of feeling that there are so many people. You don't really have to. You have so many options. You don't have to rely on someone, like on a particular person. You can, I don't know, have casual sex there, like cheat on your spouse there, and then you can cheat your partners out of business, and you can just find some other people. And there are so many people in the big cities compared to the smaller cities even. And in
Yeah,
small cities, everyone knows everyone. Your reputation, like, it's everything in a small city, because if you
very
do
interesting.
something wrong, everyone will know. Yeah,
I like your.
I grew up
Yeah,
in a
go
city
ahead.
like of 100,000 to 200,000, and the the speed of spreading of information, like, in a small city like that, is very fast, and you meet the same people all the time. Yeah. And like in a huge metropolitan area, you don't really care. Like, you can encounter a person, and you will never you like the chances are you might never meet him again.
I like that. I like that. It meshes pretty well with a very childish and simplistic, overly simplistic theory of mine about China. I said, "Do you know why 100% of the people who walk into a shop in China get screwed?" Which is an assumption, because there's 1.4 billion other people to screw, so they don't have to
Uh,
worry about
yeah,
screwing everyone who comes in the door. And in some funny way, you seem to be echoing this thought to some extent, and I think it's an interesting thing. I can't criticize it because I've used it myself. Um, but I've distracted. Do you want to return to Borat and talk some more about Borat? I would love to watch the movie so that I can give you a better participation. But I'm very happy to talk about the concepts. You were telling me that you don't feel that it's a very good depiction of reality in Kazakhstan. You personally found it funny,
yeah, I
but
found
a lot of Kazakhstanis who are either neutral on it, it's not it's not in their radar at all, or are offended by it, and damn few that think it's funny. Is
yeah.
there a large group of people in Kazakhstan, or is there a significant group of people in Kazakhstan, let's say your own age, so you're more likely to be familiar with them, who are pro-American and pro-American culture?
Yeah, I would say the at least a third, maybe even more.
Would some of those people, subset of those people, be the more likely ones to find uh, Cohen's comedy humorous?
Yeah, probably yes.
Yeah, because like I said, I think it reflects Western culture more than it does Eastern culture. I think it's a very unrealistic depiction of Eastern culture, but a very accurate reflection of Western culture. I think it was Paul Thoreau, the guy who makes all these great travel books, who said, "If you really want to see who I am, take a picture of me looking out the window, so you can see my face, but better yet, you can see what I'm looking at." And I think that Borat's more of a reflection on me than it is a reflection on you. And I'm going to represent my culture in some crazy way, and I'm going to make you represent yours in some crazy way.
Yeah, so what I wanted to
So what
say,
does that say about us? What does that say about we Americans? And he's not American. I accept that he's not American,
yeah,
and
he's
I'm not even sure his movie's made for America. I've never been completely, like Ali G is not really an American orientated comedian. He's much more UK, I think. I think Americans will struggle to understand some of the cultural references in the Ali G movie.
yeah, probably yes. So what I want to get into now, the
Yeah.
Giuliani scene and the whole promotional campaign towards Borat 2. So another funny thing they did during the promotion, they made a fake account on Twitter, like it's the government of Kazakhstan, and they started basically putting out tweets about how they like Trump. Trump is this big guy, we respect him. Mike Pence is cool, and like they won all the debates and really like them. All these kind of things, and I actually thought it's funny. I even followed that account, but now when looking back into it, I feel like it was a red flag about the film. And when all this history about Rudy Giuliani came up, uh, and now I know that the film was produced by Amazon, basically, and we know what Jeff Bezos thinks about Trump. I mean, New York Times constantly
Yeah.
slams Trump, and it belongs to
I
Bezos.
can put my 2 cents in here real quick. If I have any disappointment in uh, Sasha Cohen, it's that he seems to have jumped a little bit on the anti-Trump train.
No, not
He's
even a little
become
bit.
somewhat politicized, where I would have thought that I could have depended on him to just make fun of all of us,
Yeah.
to the detriment of all of us. Everyone has to suffer. No
Mm.
one will be glorified on behalf of the other. That we're all a bunch of losers, and we all have to take our licks. And that's a comedian. That's a proper comedian. It's showing us being a mirror to our ourselves, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, and it's perfectly okay with me that he set up Rudy Giuliani. He's fair game. He's a political figure, and making political figures look bad is fun. But his response to Giuliani's response did not resonate very well with me. I I very quick to believe if you tell me, that if you're pretty and you're soulless like a sociopath, you go to Hollywood, and if you're ugly and you're a sociopath, you go to Washington D.C. I'm prepared to believe that. And if you told me they're all raping children together and drinking their body fluids to live forever, I'm prepared to believe that. But I don't easily put Rudy Giuliani into that role, and I could be completely wrong. So when Rudy Giuliani says I was tucking in my shirt, I'm I'm much more prepared to believe he was tucking in his shirt than for most people who's in the kind of role he's in. And this could be my bias. I'm not a huge Rudy Giuliani fan. I don't worship him or love him or anything, but I've just got a sense that maybe this isn't true. And if it's not true, and we're not just making fun of him, like making him look like he's about to have sex with the niece, the 14-year-old niece, if she really was 14, of Sasha Cohen, Baron Cohen, it's funny. It's a lot of fun, and to tease him is a lot of fun, and to letting us know with a wink that. We know that Rudy's getting angry over nothing is even more fun. But to insist or to play it the way, oh, I saw what I saw and you can judge it for yourself. Well, that doesn't sound like a denial either. That also kind of makes it sound like maybe it was a very choice moment selected out of context to show us. I'm a bit disappointed. It's one of the reasons why I haven't watched the Borat 2 movie. Is I'm a little bit disappointed because I don't like this polarization of my heroes. I've had to give up on so many heroes on the left because of let's call it Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, and after that, like I knew that Sacha Baron Cohen was leaning left, like uh, basically
But
everyone
that's
in
okay.
Hollywood.
Being left is
Yeah, and
okay.
that's okay. I mean, he produced a bunch of videos with interviews of conservative politicians. Do you remember back then?
Sure.
Yeah,
Back
but
then I would have been all for it because I was like a John Stewart guy. I was leaning left back then as well.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was anti-Bush kind of guy, and
yeah, and I have nothing against that, but
it was funny.
yeah,
I thought it was genuinely funny, and I thought it was tongue in cheek, and I thought no one was trying to manipulate the minds of people and take away the rights of the human species.
yeah, but now he's saying like he intentionally released the film before the election. And
Yeah.
of course, the Giuliani was targeted like intentionally. And
No, I think he intentionally released it because Giuliani is starting to unpack his, what do they call it, October surprise, right?
yeah,
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 I think it's specifically because of the Hunter Biden thing.
yeah, it is specifically.
Yeah, I suspect
And
he's
yeah,
been weaponized,
yeah, and
right?
that's the reason I want to watch the second film too. But I'll probably will. Of course, I'll
I
pirate it.
think I will, especially since we've discussed it together, right? And we're both fans.
But now I think I will not protect, I will not defend the Sacha Baron Cohen and Borat film anymore because uh, it's like how can you defend the person uh, in Kazakhstan on your own expense after he's doing things like that? And it's really irritating for a lot of people outside of the US that every film is so political. Like basically every film ever since I think 2016, maybe earlier than that, has this agenda, and people are very tired of that.
Sure, the whole thing about Taiwan disappearing from the jacket of the Top Gun character. I can't think of his name. The one
Yeah,
played by Tom Cruise. All of this, all of this.
yeah.
But
Especially,
there's an interesting backlash on China right now too, which could. So let me ask you this, just off the cuff, a big question off the cuff. If this were a conspiracy, do you think that China could be the puppet master, the one behind Hollywood, the one behind the NFL, the one behind the NBA, the one behind all of the one behind Silicon Valley, the one behind all of this stuff? If it turns out to be, Russia or China or Bolivia, do you think maybe maybe it is China? Like this has been an ongoing subversion for 20 years, a long-term plan, the Long March rocket,
uh,
up the political anus of the United States.
yeah. Uh, I'll get into that. I just wanted to say one more thing about Giuliani's scene, and I watched the scene recently, and then I listened to Joe Rogan and Tim Pool talking about that,
Yeah. Yep.
and he like they both think it's just deceptive editing, deceptive framing. Yeah,
They quoted sources who took a good look at it that said it really does look like it comes not at the end of an interview, but at the beginning of an interview when you're getting ready, right? And tucking your shirt that way is, yeah. I lean towards believing that. I have to confess I'm biased at this time. I'm not happy to be biased.
mm,
I remember I'm an aging white American man. I am the brunt of all of this shit. You're right.
yeah,
I am the target of cancel culture. So this can't help but have become somewhat personal to me.
mm, yeah,
The, if there is a, after November 4th and leading into the 2021, if there is a major civil war in the United States, it's a civil war I would consider getting on a plane, going in and participating and dying in,
mm.
because I don't want any goddamn Bolshevik revolution in my hometown of Chicago to succeed.
So, in regards to China and the conspiracy to take down the US, I think China clearly wants to be, if it's not already, the most dominant power in the world. And of course, we have to take down the United States
I
before that.
don't.
And
I don't think that they could even begin to stand up to the United States on a head-to-head confrontation, but that's not how they work, right? They come at you from a weird angle. They don't ever go head-to-head with you.
yeah,
They're getting into a lot of trouble right now because they're trying that on, right? I think my feeling is that this crazy dictator recognizes he won't live forever, and if he's going to run the world, he better start now. And I think that China's realizing very fast, when you overtly head on try to stir things up, things don't go very well.
yeah, and I think it manifests in everything, like the way what they teach in schools, like uh, what kind of what kind of military drills they have, the propaganda. It's all aimed for like some kind of revenge against
But the
Western.
funny thing is that, and correct me because I'm not studied in this at all, and I don't know if you're studied in it at all. It's a terrible assumption on my part if I imagine that you are more studied in it than I am. But from what I'm told, all these step by step things, all the subversive things in the United States, and remember, I recognize if you look for something, you tend to find it, whether it's there or not. Uh,
You want to bring up
um,
your business?
no, I just want to bring up something that matches this theme. That's all. Um,
Yeah, and I think in regards to
the
Hollywood,
this
NFL,
seems, yeah.
all,
Sorry, brother.
um,
I'll finish what I was trying to say. What
okay.
I was trying to say is this is more Marxist to me, and I didn't think the Chinese were supposed to be Marxist. Yeah,
Yeah,
this whole subversion plan sounds like it's right out of the books of the former Soviet and Marxist type of uh,
Atheist.
ideology.
Yeah, I mean that's a curious thing, but that's it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't.
They pick this to
First of
their
all,
own.
can we clear the air of this? I personally, we talked a little, and we talked a little bit about uh, Rudy Giuliani, and we talked a little bit about possible large conspiracies and undermining of the culture and so on and so forth. And let me ask you this. Let me turn it full circle. A lot of people now are looking to the United States. I think it's wise to look to the United States if you're looking for a direction for the 2020s. That seems like the big battles in the United States. I mean, really, if the left really cares about human rights, the United States would not be my first choice to go and demonstrate, except, in the United States, you won't be shot on the spot. You go to
Yeah,
China, you'll be shot on the spot. But let me ask you this: in Kazakhstan, what's going on over there? Are you guys leaning towards returning to communism? Are you leaning towards the right? Are you leaning towards the left? What do you think is going on? What's your take on it? What is, if the struggle in the United States is between the conservative right and the liberal, possibly socialist, communist, fascist left versus the, let's be fair, possibly white supremacist right, which I frankly don't believe is real, but I have to admit it could be. What is the struggle in Kazakhstan? I imagine your struggle is a lot more practical than ours,
yeah, and
like trying to feed the family and get the businesses up and running, and COVID can't have helped that.
yeah, yeah. Mm, Basically,
Are you
our
wiping your
struggle
ass with newspaper?
I,
When you're rich, right? Only when you're rich.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we're struggling with too big of a government. I mean, it's still uh, basically, and with political corruption, all these kind of things. We have a communist party in the parliament, but it's only like 5 to 8% of the vote. So we don't have a communist takeover here.
So you're still, the people are still struggling with the basics necessities of life,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Not not
COVID's shut
not
down whatever hope there was for moving out of it
not the
for a while.
basics,
To put it
but
on suspension.
yeah, yeah. Not with the basics, I would say,
Yeah,
but
you don't have lines for toilet paper.
yeah, we don't have that. Yeah.
But did that ever happen during your lifetime?
My lifetime, no. You'll have to be born in the
No.
Soviet Union to remember that.
Right. Yeah, right. Your parents might remember this kind of thing, but you don't. You never experienced it.
Yeah, I know.
So, but still, like you're a budding entrepreneur. I don't suppose there's a lot of money moving around and a lot of potential right now, for sure, with the COVID thing happening.
Yeah, of course.
And there might be some opportunities in the West, but I think they're one quarter what they used to be, but not zero. And I think probably, I'm guessing, let's say in Kazakhstan, for someone such as yourself, the opportunities are probably 1/10 of what they used to be, but perhaps not zero.
Yeah, I don't think it's zero. Yeah.
Yeah. You could still try to do things like selling things online, and like sell your sister as a Russian bride or something
Yeah,
like
of course.
that. Something like that.
You can
So
always do that.
yeah, always do that. You can always do that. We hold on to that. That's like a bank. That's like a Kazakhstani bank. Is young
Yeah.
females in the family are like.
Okay,
That's the
let's
wealth of our future.
yeah. Let's not discuss Kazakhstan too much.
Yeah.
I'll get in trouble
That
here.
will it'll yeah, will it? Yes. It's fine. I don't mind at all. Okay. We can avoid that topic. It's of course interesting to me, but we can avoid that topic.
Yeah, we can
Okay then.
discuss off the mic. I don't know. Let's go to Hunter Biden.
Sure. It's no you want to do some Hunter Biden right now?
Yeah, I
We
do
can go
want.
there. Okay, we can go there. My opinion of the Hunter Biden thing is just from what I've seen and what I've heard, it's 99% true, at least. In other words, almost all the crap we've heard and all the little nasty things that have leaked out, I believe almost all of it. And part of it, part of me believing it is the response of the people involved, how they lock themselves away, how they suppress this from being talked about, how you have major news organizations. I always love Biden whenever someone says, "What about your son?" No one's accusing us. Everyone's accusing you. What do you mean no one's accusing you of anything? Everyone's accusing you of everything. And this crazy woman who interviewed Trump, that can't be substantiated. What do you mean it can't be? Get off your ass. You're a reporter and go and research it. What do you mean it can't be substantiated? What does that mean? So the
Yeah,
way that they're responding to it, to the fact that America's oldest newspaper is being censored from Twitter, and I know these are all the talking points, so forgive me. I recognize my bias. Makes me lean towards believing it's all true. And the more I heard about 14-year-old girls, the more I wanted to believe it's true because I'm beginning to, again, am I being am I becoming part of QAnon? I don't know,
I
but
don't know.
I'm quite open to believing there's a problem here, some kind of a weird little kid problem here. If you just Google around a little bit, it's like 50 people were arrested in the Midwest two or 3 days ago in a human trafficking ring, mostly dealing with children.
Yeah, and
Something weird is going on here, brother.
yeah,
I
and
just wonder what it is. Like,
yeah,
are people draining body fluids to try to, like, stem cells to try to live longer? And, maybe it works. You
yeah,
only have to believe it works, right?
yeah, yeah. Placebo effect.
Yeah, but I'm
Yeah,
concerned, like I'm prepared to believe it's that bad. Like something is really like there really is something going on.
yeah. I mean, there was a real company in California that would, uh, what would you call it, transmit blood from younger people to all these tech billionaires.
Semi
And
legally, right? Semi legally, you mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think Peter Thiel uh, told once that he did it,
Mhm.
and that's when the story broke. And if you
And
remember, there was a
Pizzagate and all
story
that.
of there was a story. There are many stories out of Hollywood about the kids of all these actors that they've been abused as kids. If you remember the Spielberg daughter story, uh, um,
Well, even what's his name? Stephen Hawking was abused. Not as a kid.
mm,
He Many believe he's the smartest man alive. If you're going to start draining fluids, why not his?
okay.
Right. I mean, it's a little hard to believe he's getting scars from falling out of that wheelchair. I don't think he can. I don't think he can fall out of the wheelchair. I don't think he can move that well.
Yeah, but what surprised me the most, I don't really care about this. Like everyone knew about that Hunter is kind of a
Creep.
I know creep, yeah, and he had all these problems with drugs, and of
Yeah.
course he never went to jail for that because you don't go to jail if you son of a
Apparently.
politician.
Apparently.
And what surprised me the most is all the stakes in all these companies, like all over all these corrupt countries, like Ukraine, like China, and it's really seems like Biden himself was getting money from all these foreign companies, which is insane.
And the Clintons
But
and
actually,
probably Obama.
that's how politicians in Russia do that. Basically, what they do, like to get the money, they have their friends running the companies, or they have their like relatives having a stake in the company, and they holding like in a like they said like for a big guy, like in Hunter case. So
Yeah. No,
that's how we do things.
it may, but it's very discouraging to me. Did I assume that this kind of stuff was going on in American politics? Yes. But this is so overt and so discouraging and so disgusting. And this is the swamp that
Yeah,
everyone's talking
that's
about, draining the swamp. This is the swamp. How do these people become multimillionaires on a government salary? Right?
yeah, that's very interesting.
If I do it, I'll get audited by the IRS. And if they don't like the answers, they'll just bill me like, okay, well, we don't see how you made the money, but that house, you're going to have to. That's a $10 million house, and we reckon someone who has a $10 million house is probably making about 100 million a year. We'll say 90 million a year. Now you owe us taxes for 90 million for the last 10 years,
Yeah, that's how it
and
works.
that's it. And then I go to jail, and
Biden.
then they seize all the houses,
Yeah,
but not these guys.
yeah, not for politicians.
So so you're talking about this. I just want to put your eyes and your ears on this funny thing. Here's a funny thing. I don't know what to make of it. It's a funny thing. I bumped into one of the Fox guys today who said that he had documents shipped from the East Coast to the West Coast. Did you hear this?
No, I
They
didn't.
used a major carrier like, forgive me for dropping a name when I don't know, but let's say a carrier similar to Federal Express, this kind, UPS, this kind of a carrier, a big one.
Like,
And when the thing arrived in LA, it was opened and empty. And it was all full of fresh Hunter Biden and father documents.
mm-hmm.
And when Fox complained to whichever carrier it was, we're told by Hannity, one of these guys, well, I can't remember which one it is, that they were freaked out and they're investigating it. And they investigated it and they found out that it was all okay. But when it arrived at 3 in the morning somewhere in the Midwest, it had been opened and it was empty.
Mm-hmm.
And they're investigating it as well. So I'm telling you, man, I'm bothered by the fact. First of all, I'm bothered by the fact that this is going on, and I believe it's going on. This whole Joe getting rich and the son being involved, I believe it's going on. That bothers me, but I'm not surprised. What continues to bother me is it seems like Trump has done a fairly good job of firing and getting rid of a lot of the people who were, spying on him and stabbing him in the back. His cabinet staff who were, secretly working against him. But this guy he has in the FBI, he should fire him now. He should just get rid of him now because the FBI has been sitting on this laptop for a year, better part of a year.
I think they should fire all the top officials at FBI, like
Yeah,
every
I
and
think he should remove the top security status from all of the old guys. And
yeah, and I think Americans just forgot, how these things work because they had a working government for some amount of time,
yeah, brother,
and
you're right.
yeah,
That's right.
and the way it happens is that you have some corrupt politicians, then they or some corrupt people, and then they basically give you an order on they ask you a favor, do something like corrupt for me, and what they're trying to do, they want to implicate everyone in the crime. So
Yeah,
now everyone has a skin in the game,
sure.
and no
Yeah,
one wants to get
Epstein, right?
to get caught. Yeah,
His whole job is taking pictures. The FBI. The whole reason you can only be the FBI director for 8 years, like I told you, is because right from the very beginning, all they really do is blackmail Congress. That's all they really do for a living. And
and
but even when I went to school, we were taught to be discouraged, like we have no hope. We were taught that it's corruption, it's everywhere. What can you do? This is how you teach people not to fight again. Oh, there's no hope. This is just the way it is. It's always been this way. It's always going to be this way. There's
Validation.
And again, that's Marxist. I'm not saying it's only Marxist, but it is a Marxist approach to say discourage everyone, take away religion, take away morals, uh, uh, make sex open and superficial, and erode the family and all of this kind of stuff. You're absolutely right, brother. Perhaps we can end this session on this this little thought area we're getting into now, which is how did we get here? We took
Yeah,
our eye off the ball. Education's critically important. So
yeah. I just
America has taken its eye off the education ball for too long. It's so bad now that I don't like Apple bringing in people from overseas instead of trying to train Americans. But Americans are so friggin' stupid now. I don't think you can teach them to code. Look at Boeing. All of a sudden, Boeing can't make an airplane that flies and can't make a spaceship that flies because of coding problems.
yeah. I mean, the education in US really sucks. I mean, I actively discourage people here to send their kids to study in US now,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
wasn't the case in a previous century. In the previous century, 20th
yes, that's
century,
right.
everyone wanted to send their kids to the US, and it was great for them, but not in this one. And I
Well,
just want to say,
everyone still does from China.
yeah, a final thought on what happened with FBI and previous administration. What basically happened and is that there was some kind of a order from the Democratic administration at the time, led by Obama, to they gave some criminal orders, really criminal orders against Trump campaign, and then FBI did it, and then FBI just can't get out of it because
Yeah,
if they admit what they did, I mean, they all get fired or they even go to jail, and now and
and
maybe it
undo
was
the
the
FISA
reason.
court as well,
Yeah, and maybe
which
it
needs
was
to
the
be undone.
reason for Russian conspiracy because
Yes, brother.
that was the only reason for them to get out of that. Okay, we'll drag it for like 3 4 years. So if he fires us, it will look bad. So let's just keep pushing that. So we'll all just get away with this crime that we did.
And it's worked.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
Trump couldn't
you
do
know
anything.
it's so bad now that you have people on the left in the politics. So when I say the left, I mean the legitimate politicians like the people around Biden that I've heard conversations. I think maybe illegally recorded. I don't know how they ended up on Fox News, but I think maybe they're illegal. Where they're saying, let's get ready for this. If this gets out, we're all going to jail, and this is all trouble. And I think they weren't prepared for how well Silicon Valley and CNN and all these guys are going to cover for them.
Yeah.
I think even they're surprised. And this is my ultimate fear. And maybe this is what we can talk about on the next Not Roman, Not Ron cast, which is what if Nancy Pelosi, Biden, we expect Biden's a puppet, but what if Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, and the entire DNC are puppets? Like you said, there's pictures floating around, there's uh, life and death threats floating around, that these people are not the ones who are actually behind all this, that there's some one layer at least deeper. It's not the Democratic Party. In other words, the first line of victim is the Democrat Party. That's the question I pose for our next podcast.
Mhm. Okay, we'll have to prepare for that. Okay, let's move on to another topic. Uh,
Okay, but I'm getting tight on time here, brother. So are we
I'm
going to do
getting
another
tight.
20 minutes here?
You're getting tight on time already.
It's an hour. Do you want me to give 2 hours for this?
Yeah, I thought you'll have some more time.
No, no,
Sure.
no. Okay, all right, that's okay. The stuff I have going on now is not that critical, so I can give you another 20 minutes. I don't mind. But I had only planned an hour. I figured, an hour and a half because warm up and cool down. But
Yeah.
okay, what
Okay.
topic do you want to get into now?
Yeah, I just want to discuss Hmm. Can we have then another call before the elections?
Yeah,
Like
brother.
maybe on a weekend or something.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I want to discuss all those topics from the list, like voter fraud, mail-in ballots, early voting polls, like not like for an hour or something. Yeah, I just wanted to say that that's another way the democratic establishment operates, similar to I know maybe even Putin's regime that they hate so much.
I don't mind. You want to talk about some Veritas stuff and Elon Omar and this kind of stuff? Is that what you're kind of on about? Voter fraud,
Y-
ballot boxes burning, and whatnot?
Yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Let's
yeah.
go. Come on. And we can
So
revisit this again because with the election coming up, we should have another one of these before the election. Yes.
yeah, we surely do have. So another way the establishment now operates, like a, let's say, Putin's regime that they hate so much, is that uh, whenever they like there recently was a referendum in Russia that they really needed to manipulate the results, because the referendum was actually to the reason to do the referendum was to extend the number of terms that Putin can have.
Yep.
And
Because he
what she
keeps
wanted,
swapping roles to extend it, right?
yeah, he doesn't want to do that anymore. He just wants to be a president continuously.
Yeah, like the
So,
guy in China.
yeah, one of the things you want to do if you want to make the falsify the election, the results, is you allow people to vote for not for one day just, but for a few days, like as many as possible is better, because a lot of things can happen over time on this place where they count the
Sure, of course,
ballots.
brother. Of
Yeah,
course, of course.
and you won't mail in ballots because those are very easy to manipulate. The hardest elections to manipulate is where you have one day, people can only come on this one day, only in person, with documents, and all this committee around the world that monitor the elections. They all know that, like everyone knows that the most secure election is you have one day, you have people watching the process, like independent observers, and people come with their documents, like people register in advance.
The American style until this year.
Yeah, that's
And the least secure is to have a whole bunch of mail-in shit where no one's watching.
yeah, you
And that
have
goes on
early
over
voting,
a
you
1 month
have
period.
multi-day yeah, voting,
Huh.
like
With different standards in 50 different states. Yeah.
yeah, and ballots stay there like overnight, where something can happen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really Americans should be careful with like whatever side pushes all these kind of things. Like,
Well,
it
this
just
is
means
one of the
this side
reasons why
wants to
I believe,
manipulate the elections.
yeah, this is why they're so upset about the Supreme Court being stacked because the Supreme Court is not going to be leaning towards saying, yeah, everything's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's our
yeah,
checks and balances. It's all in play in the United States right now. All of it's in play. They're really trying to undo everything. These people like this, no other country in the world would have some communist Islamic freak from Somalia come into the middle of nowhere in the Midwest and take over and become part of the government. No one. And hate the government, overtly hate the government, and try to overthrow the government overtly like this. No other government would put up with that.
yeah, true. Like I recently heard that in Scotland there was like a guy again from the Middle East who was elected. He was complaining about the fact that basically in Scotland, which is like one of the whitest places ever in the world, there are just too many white people in senior positions. If you say something like that, like let's say you're a minority, even I don't know. Even if Singapore, I think if you will come up and say like, what, there's no like, there's a white minority, there's a black minority in Singapore, and you're gonna say like, why aren't, why aren't we equally represented in the government? Like in any like Asian or Eastern European or African country, basically everywhere outside of Europe, New Zealand, North America, Australia, you just can't say that without like just being getting kicked out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I would say be careful. To begin with, Singapore, I think, does strive to be representative of their mix, but they're a special case. So let's leave that out. I think it's a
Yeah.
genuine effort on their part. I think that Australia has been slip sliding into the same shit the Americans have been slip sliding into. They gave up their guns. That was a big mistake. They've been giving enormous special powers to the Aboriginal people for many years. I think in some ways, Australia is ahead of the United States in this kind of stuff that's going on. Um, and New Zealand, this woman who's running the place now also seems to be very, very left orientated. But that wasn't the point you were trying to make. The point you were trying to make is, uh, I think Ireland's a good example. It would be pretty weird for I knew someone in England who just didn't want to see black people playing on the English football team because English people aren't black. He has nothing against black people playing in soccer and beating them in soccer like Indians. For him, Indians are black, which I guess they are. I mean, Kamala Harris is telling us she's black, so um, that's pretty recent. So I think you're right. I think that I think it is funny. They're going after America because they feel that America is weak. They're vulnerable. And when I was young, we used to say something in America, and these types of things are going to have to come back, and they will come back. Tolerate everything except intolerance. That's the American way. We will tolerate everything except intolerance.
Mhm.
So this woman is welcome in the United States, and this woman's welcome to run for office, but this woman should be jailed for sedition.
Mhm.
But that's not what you wanted to talk about. Well, it is. It is kind of. You wanted to talk about voter fraud
Yeah, water fraud. Yeah.
in the
So
United States or around the world. I mean, you were talking about Russia, which is an interesting thing to talk about.
yeah, and uh, I just want to bring it up because like people in America, I think they're used to like that the election system is working, and they aren't used to like they just can't imagine a
No, brother. I think that's
massive election
true.
fraud.
I think that the people on the right, the traditional people, are surprised with how quickly things have gone so badly. But I think the people on the left, and I don't know how many of them are vocal and how many of them are quiet. But I think the people on the left, honestly, I think most of them believe that Biden raped a woman. I think
Mhm.
most of them believe that Biden's son has done deals. I think most of them believe that people like Biden and Pelosi and people on the right, but Biden and Pelosi have abused their position and made a lot of money illegally, but they hate Donald Trump. They have been taught. You watch these things on YouTube where these kids go all to these campuses and say, "Who do you think said this? Black people are terrible, and I want to kill them all." Oh, that sounds like Donald Trump. Yeah, doesn't it? Except it was said by Nancy Pelosi. Really? Well, it doesn't surprise me too much, but I'm still going to vote for her because she's not Donald Trump. But you just admitted that you thought something was attributed to Donald Trump that you found out wasn't, and you still somehow don't get it, that maybe a lot of things, maybe everything you're taught to hate Donald Trump for actually doesn't come from Donald, but they don't get it. They don't get it. They have Trump derangement syndrome is real. This is the powerful pill that they've developed on the left. These people don't believe the rhetoric. They just hate Donald Trump. They're willing to let the cheating go by. They know that people's opinions are unconstitutionally being suppressed, but they don't care because Donald Trump believers don't deserve the Constitution, and they know that packing the court will ruin the American checks and balances. But it doesn't matter because Donald Trump people don't deserve constitutional protection. They don't deserve protection of the Supreme Court. They don't deserve to live. Which is why I say these people like CNN and Nancy Pelosi, who's given in because a year ago she was fighting against this. So maybe they, Nancy Pelosi's kid. What we haven't talked about is, along with Hunter Biden, was Nancy Pelosi's kid, and one of the guys from the right who's always talking all the time, Graham or one of those guys. All of their kids together got rich in Ukraine, not just Hunter Biden.
Mm.
That's why the right never prosecutes anybody.
Yeah, and it's just
We all
sad.
know that. We all know that, but they don't care. They're willing to trade their souls, their liberty, whatever it takes. Give in to Big Brother, move into uh, Ice Sock, whatever it's called, the fictional country in 1984. They'll move right in there just so long as Trump and his believers are taken down.
Yeah, and the concern is like that people are at all the levels are so brainwashed into that they will be willing to break rules like
I
the
think at many
water flow
levels.
just to because in their eyes everything will be justified to stop, I don't know, white supremacy, what they think they're stopping. And yeah, it's just sad to see that there's almost no difference with democratic establishment and some dictatorship. There, like you take just any dictatorship, like and you will
But
see
give
like
me one. Give me
media.
one.
Okay,
Name one.
we can do Russia, and the media is on their side.
Good
They do
choice. Good.
multi-day election. They do like all these ways to vote, like to make it easier supposedly, but they
Yes.
just use it to manipulate the elections,
So
and
then what do you think, my friend?
everything is just the same. Everything is similar.
So what do
And
you think, my
also
friend?
one more thing. They do polls that are fake to convince people who vote for the other side that they're just
Well,
like marginal
I'm not even
minority who
I'm
are
not
just
even sure
crazy.
they're fake in the States because they're afraid to admit they are interested in Trump,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
also like Russia, right?
but it's a big thing. Like in any authoritarian regime, they
But
always do
dude,
polls and they always say like you're in the minority, you're not gonna win, you're just like on the wrong side of history. So people hop in to the right side, to the side
so
they think they're going to win, and that's how we do
let
it.
me ask you this. Do you think it's by chance that the United States and the problems we're having in the United States are like a mirror of Russia? Is it by chance?
It's just what happens in every regime that gets corrupted. It's
Hmm.
everywhere in the world.
It's like I said, this has played out, the subversion has played out in a very Marxist way. Chinese are not Marxist.
You think Russians are Marxists?
I think that if you look at Marx and other people who wrote about Stalin and others who wrote about how to subvert governments and take over the minds of people and control, I think it looks like what's happening in the United States. Even though I mistrust the Chinese much more than I mistrust the Russians. For one thing, Obama said, "Russia, shut your mouth. You're like a gas station."
Yeah,
Well, I think
which
there's
kind
some
of
truth to that. There's some truth to that. Russia's not very powerful anymore, but they're not stupid.
yeah.
This, I think that China's very good at trying to take advantage of things. I think their belt and what's it called? Their belt and
Belt and Road,
road. Yeah,
Belt and Road
it's
program.
very interesting. It's they trick people into borrowing money and then they take over the ports and whatever. So it's not that they're not clever. They are clever. I think they've definitely subverted the NBA. I think they've definitely subverted Hollywood. I'm not saying that they're stealing a lot of things from our educational system. But I before I completely dismiss Russia and the kind of thinking behind Russia, this what's happening in the United States really does very well mirror the way they do it in Russia. Really, really, it does.
Yeah, but you have to remember that the current administration, I don't think it's a Marxist philosophy per se, but
Black
just
Lives Matter is
them
Marxist.
no, no, I'm talking it's all not Marxist tactics per se, but KGB tactics. And Putin from KGB, this Yuri Bezmenov guy, he's from KGB. That's what they developed because uh, and communists wanted a world revolution, and they didn't want like to fight open wars for that. And
Well,
that's how they did it.
when I was a young-ish man, so let's say my
Basically,
20s, I lived in Chicago in my 20s. And while I was in Chicago, we watched Chicago go from a very Polish city, Polish Irish city, to when I left, all my friends say, "Oh, it's all fucking KGB here now."
Russians like Chicago a lot. And
But there weren't very many there in the 80s, but I guess in the 90s they really took over.
yeah, because the Soviet Union collapsed, a lot of people moved to Chicago, and the Russians like
Why?
Chicago
Why Chicago?
because it's in the film. There was a film, Brat 2, Brother 2, basically. And it talks about, in the film, they portray this basically it's a story about brothers. So one of the brothers goes to US and he becomes like successful there, and brother from Russia, I mean, he's kind of a criminal and he moves there too. Yeah, and it's basically about Russian immigration in the US. That's the film. That's what the film about. And for many people, the first, like almost everyone, Russian mafia, almost everyone in Russia watched this film, and Chicago is like one of the go-to places for them.
That's interesting. See, that's a cultural reference. It's nice to have shared because that's a
Yeah,
cultural reference I'm not familiar with.
yeah, and I don't know. There's something that about Chicago that attracts Russians. Like when even like some friends of my father, they moved to Chicago, even though my father kind of considered it, but I advised him against that. I said my better places in the U.S. and now it's just apparent that there are.
But Chicago, New York, and L.A., the one, two, three cities in the United States, are all Bolshevik now.
Yeah, and in our culture, like in let's say like post-Soviet portion of people who want to immigrate, they just dream about LA, NU, Chicago. That's the place we want to go. Like that's their dream to move there. They think like the life is just beautiful there. They'll be like welcomed and they'll be successful there. That's
Maybe they're
that's
right.
the to go place. I mean, people wear Chicago Bulls merch here, and caps with let's say Chicago. That's the three cities. They have this almost mythological symbolism to them, like for our people. That's the cities where you go for your American dream. So it's not a KGB operation there
But what is their version of the American dream?
for
Is it a
Russians.
mafia style dream or is it
Well,
the traditional American dream? You go there, you have a wife, kids, you're quiet, you have some freedom, you have 2.7 children and a car and a half in the garage, and you go to work every day, and then you retire with you know, a little bit
yeah,
of money in your hand.
for most of them it is traditional. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
then they're very welcome.
for some of them they go there just to live on welfare and take
Well,
advantage of Americans.
well, we do that too. But
Yeah.
I think one thing that a lot of people underestimate is how many people have come to the United States seeking the traditional American dream and fleeing from a dictatorial environment. And they are much more prone to fighting this time than running away again. I've seen some really angry people, Vietnamese people, Cuban people, really angry about seeing what's the socialist movement in the United States. And these people will be right there in the front lines of the war if there's going to be one.
Yeah, it is. It's just the same story all over again.
Unfortunately, it's upsetting to me. I've got a British guy across the street who's just trying to, it's like, I notice you're agitated. Why are you agitated? You live here in Singapore. You should be happy. And I told him the same thing I told you. I said, for the first time since 1989, when I left the United States definitively, am I considering going back to the United States? And not because I want to, but to fight and die in a war.
Mm.
I think a lot of people, it's like the Japanese really underestimated Americans when they attacked Pearl Harbor. It was the mistake that lost them the war.
Yeah.
And whoever thought that COVID was going to be now they're very weak now. This is the time to make our move. You showed your hand too soon.
Mm.
But we'll see on Tuesday, or maybe not yet on Tuesday, but we'll see over the next 2 months what happens. But I have faith in the United States and I have faith in the people there. There's a whole bunch of beer drinking, truck driving, shotgun wielding sons of
Oh
bitches.
boy.
You know, the Hell's Angels are always like one step away from being our heroes, and they always have been one step away from being our heroes. And the whole thing about the Second Amendment and holding on to our guns is about this moment, this particular moment. We don't need the police. We don't need the FBI. The people themselves are quite capable of handling this. And there's a whole lot of headless Frenchmen who never imagined the people, especially in Europe and France, would ever rise up against this incredibly strong government and just chop everyone's head off. So the Nancy Pelosi's of the world, I don't know, but I'll tell you this: if the shit hits the fan, I'd be willing to go there and lay down my life in that battle. I'm still that much of an American. Okay, buddy, that's the end of my rainbow. It's 8:30, but I'll be
Okay.
very happy to meet with you. I'm gonna stop the recording here on my side, and I'll check it in a minute, and I'll make it available to you. Um,
Okay.
when do you want to do this again? I'll put it in my calendar.
Um, the sooner the better, because I'll have to edit that. Uh,
You don't want to release it as two separate things. You want to combine it together and release it as one.
yeah, I wanna combine together and list as one, but I'll also
How
cut
many
it
hours of,
in pieces.
podcast do you want? People don't like listening to 3 hours of podcast.
No, people do like.
You're gonna
Uh,
you're going to condense it, condense it, condense it. Like everything that makes me look like a dumbass, you're going to leave that in, and everything that makes you look smart, you're going to leave that in, and everything else is going to go. That kind of stuff.
of course.
You're going to change my words, to trip me up somehow and make me.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we can
I'll
do another
make
one
you
tomorrow night
like.
or another one on Saturday if you want.
Yeah, let's do tomorrow night, and I
Same
think
time.
we can cover the rest of the topics there.
Oh, okay,
I
buddy.
think we'll be good to go unless.
Okay. I also don't want to get too tired. We've been going at this for a little while. So hold on a second now. I just want to see where this recording ended up. I think maybe in my downloads. Let me bring this over where you can see it so you don't feel so lonely.
Okay, I'll stop the recording here.
Yeah, it didn't go to downloads.